What's up guys, it's me Jeremy, and it's that time of the month again, time for my rundown and analysis of the new patch, patch 5.8. I'll be going over all of the major changes that take place in this patch and giving you my rundown and analysis. Let's get started. Starting off with the changes to champions, the first and biggest being the Ryze rework. Ryze has a completely overhauled kit that has changed by quite a reasonable amount. I won't go too much into detail on what his new kit is, so if you want to read it you can just pause the video and read the notes. But overall I found that I think that the new Ryze is actually quite powerful. I played with him a lot on the PBE, and although his laning phase was a little bit clunky since farming with his Q that is now a skill shot was much harder, his team fighting was super strong and he does a crazy amount of damage in fights now. In addition, his passive is really strong too, and so I expect Ryze to be one of the strongest champions in the game actually with this change, assuming that Ryze fixed the bugs in his kit that I experienced when I played him on the PBE. Blitzcrank's Overdrive is also receiving a buff. The movement speed active now decays slower and has a minimum movement speed value. Overall, this change should help the huge win rate drop Blitzcrank received after the gutting of his Overdrive spell, and should give him some more power back for solo queue. Dr. Mundo's Cleaver now refunds its cost when it kills its target. This is actually a pretty nice change and should help him out immensely in the top lane, since you can now reliably use cleavers to farm without taking damage yourself. So it's an awesome change, and I think it should be enough for us to start seeing some more of the Doctor. Jinx has had the minimum damage of her ultimate reduced by a very significant amount. This means that your short range ultimates are going to do way less damage, and so it's definitely a reasonable nerf, especially in the laning phase. Now you have to plan your rockets a little bit better, and her fights in lane will likely be quite weaker. This is probably enough to see Jinx fade off from the number 180 carry slot, but you can definitely still make some plays with her if you use your ultimate at a medium or long range quite effectively, and so she'll still be really powerful. Kha'Zix's Void Spikes have had the sustain on them increased significantly. This is honestly exactly what Kha'Zix needed to succeed as a jungler. His sustain will be way better, and so he won't take as much damage from clearing the jungle camps. I think we can definitely expect to see some Kha'Zix being played, as he is still quite a strong bruiser jungler. Whether or not Kha'Zix can succeed in a tank meta is a different story, but this change does fix his biggest problem in the jungle right now, so I would definitely expect to see him played after this patch. Sion also received a fairly significant nerf to his shield in that it now requires 3 seconds instead of 2 to detonate, and the shield amount at early ranks has been decreased by a pretty reasonable amount. This was definitely a needed nerf, but he'll likely remain one of the strongest top laners in the game for sure. Just tone down a tiny bit and he might get dethroned from the number 1 spot with this change and hover around the top 3 top laners or so. Yasuo's passive now shields for a bit more but takes a bit longer to charge up. I think this is a buff to Yasuo because it increases the potency of his shield, and as the Yasuo player you are often dictating fights in lane since you have so much mobility with the creep wave, that the stronger shield should help his sustain quite a bit and he won't be able to get poked down as much. This early game buff to Yasuo should help out his early laning phase quite a bit, which is definitely one of his biggest problems. It's a nice change and we can expect to see some Yasuo games in the future most likely. Next up we have the item changes. Black Cleaver received a huge overhaul and now builds from Phage and Kindle Gem. It has a lot more health and cooldown reduction now, and overall should be a great anti-tank item now, since the health in the new passive, similar to what Phage gives with the movement speed, should help you kite the tanks quite effectively while shredding their armor. I think it's a great item now that can definitely find a place in some 80 carry builds, but also as well in some of the bruiser champions potentially. We'll have to see how it plays out, but overall I think the new Black Cleaver is pretty strong overall. Recurve Bow now builds out of daggers, deals 10 damage on hit, and has affected a numerous amount of item builds. The 10 damage buff is really big, since it makes Recurve Bow a solid option in the laning phase, where attack speed tends to not be as useful as it is in team fights. In addition, the build path buff is nice, since when an item builds up from a bunch of small parts, that makes it much easier to purchase over time, rather than having to save up for one huge buy. So a nice buff to Recurve Bow and everything that now builds from it, being Blade of the Rune King, Runaan's Hurricane, Wit's End, and the Devourer Jungle Enchant. In addition, Righteous Glory has had its health reduced by 50, a much needed nerf that hurts the tank builds a tiny bit, but the item is definitely still super strong, and will still be super strong to pick up on tanks who use mana. And that just about covers it. Any changes not mentioned in this video were considered to be minor and insignificant. My name is Jeremy, and that's it for my video on patch 5.8. Hey guys, it's me, Jeremy. Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, definitely make sure to hit that like button so I can tell, and if you're interested, definitely check me out on all the socials, of which you can see over there. And if you really enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe for some more awesome content in the future, as well as you can check out some of my other videos up here and over there. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.